Hi guys, it's December 15th, 2012 at 5:07 um, in the afternoon, and I got back from the Star Knowledge in Phoenix last night, and what an amazing time that was. Uh, the energy level has definitely shifted up an octave, and the story I would have to tell would take me a few hours to tell the whole story because every minute, if I was going to tell the story, related to part of the whole story, and I'd have to have 7 days worth of videos to tell you what I experienced in those 7 days. Um, Truly amazing. Uh, I could feel the shift. I could feel the tension as we were leaving here, and as I left the farm ranch here in Crystal River, Florida, and went down to Tampa, I could feel the stress and the energies of the people, as well as the frequencies that were going on at that time. And I didn't sleep well for all 7 days until last night when I got back. That was the first time that I'd gotten a full night's rest throughout this whole past week. But anyway, as we were flying out of Tampa, you could see them spraying chemtrails everywhere, and I did a video while we were in the air holding my laptop filming what was going on outside the window at 40,000 feet and seeing all the chemtrails being sprayed, and then all the frequency rings that were coming out from the next radar stations and the other microwave towers and everything else, satellite transmission, that were in the cities below. You could actually spot the cities within the chemtrail layers because you'd see these ripples coming out, these waves coming out from above the towers, and that was pretty interesting to see. And anyway, we flew into Phoenix, and when we landed, I could feel a tremendous change since I'd left there 2 months ago. Where we were at the Star Knowledge Conference was only about 15 miles or so north of where I had been living in Scottsdale since from the end of March 2012 until September when we went to the Star Knowledge Gathering in Asheville. Anyway, Kim and I landed and made our way to a friend of mine's house where I was staying, Dawn's, and we scouted out, and I took her to a miniature Grand Canyon in the White Mountains Apache Reservation on Black River, uh, which was just absolutely phenomenal. And as usual, we're doing our vortex cleanup and reactivations, and as we were driving out down the same road that we had entered upon, you could really feel the vortexes having kicked up and the power that was coming from them just from our work that we do on it on a higher level, but we do it consciously also. And very, very beautiful. And as we were dropping into Phoenix, we were coming up on Sky Harbor Airport where we had flown into the days before, and looking, and that was going as we were going west in towards Phoenix, and looking to the south, there was a most beautiful light ship there going from red to green to blue to yellow, gold, violet, changing all the different colors as it looked like it slowly spun, and it was just changing colors the whole time. And in front of us, we were watching the jets fly in just after the sun had set, but before it was dark. And they had their runway lights on. Uh, and the size of the light ship that we had seen and were looking at was about 10 times bigger than any one of those jets' runway lights. That was pretty impressive. Well, in the next days, as the conference began on the 10th, we made our way up to the resort, and right as soon as we checked in to our room, which happened to be the farthest room away from the conference center that there was on in the resort area, which I so loved and so appreciated having that because I need my frequencies to be a little bit separate and more private than many others that like to be around everybody else. As soon as Kim and I had checked into the suite, uh, these coyotes came up to the sliding glass door that was our exit out to our porch area at from our room, and they started howling and howled for about 30 minutes just right as we walked into the room, and they were visible. I mean, you could open the curtains and see them, oh, just right outside our door. And it was quite interesting because at the end of the conference, just as we were getting in from the snake dance, the exact same thing happened again. And it was just beyond belief magical. At the snake dance, most every time we do these conferences, and I remember at the Serpent Mounds conference on 11/11/2010, when we went to Serpent Mounds, it had not rained in that area. They were going through a drought for almost 6 months before, and all the lakes and rivers were all dried up. And at the end of the conference, it rained, and it rained all the way on my trip back home to Mississippi after that conference. Well, the same exact thing happened here in Phoenix, and this happens. It tends to reoccur whenever we do these ceremonies, and we cleanse the earth and we activate the portals, and we always have rains or snows or really dramatic things that occur at the end of these. And at this one, during the snake dance, at the end of the 4 days of doing ceremony, we had 263 people, Joe Plum said, actually were dancing in the snake dance, and another 100 either drumming or holding the energies around us for the very final ceremonies at, between 9 and 11 o'clock that evening. And at the snake dance, it started raining, and it hadn't been raining in Phoenix for quite some time. It was pretty amazing, and it caused a lot of flash flooding to go on within the town. But again, that magical thing happens when we all come together and we're completing the ceremonies and locking in the frequencies, and something like this happens every time. Interestingly enough, years ago when I was doing a lot of factory running in China and stuff in the early 1990s, I was getting a lot of fly time, and I saw a lot of magical things in the air while I was flying between the States and China and Hong Kong during that time. This time, as we were just leaving the ground, leaving Phoenix, and the plane had lifted off, and we're getting into and above the clouds, just before we come back around, we took off to the west, and we had to turn around east to come back towards Florida. And right as we had gotten above the clouds and were getting ready to bank to come back east, there was the most beautiful rainbow that appeared in the clouds just below us. And we're in a jet looking down on the rainbow below us, and it lasted for about 45 seconds. It actually manifested right as we were taking off, and was seen below us. And I happened to have a window seat, and so did Kim, and I felt like going, "Hey, Kim, look out the window!" But she grabbed her camera. She saw it too, and snapped off a picture just before we banked out, and it disappeared. And it was the most incredible thing. And then over the Gulf, from about the Texas border, when we were going over El Paso all the way into Florida, and over the Gulf, it was solid clouds. There was a big storm going on, rains everywhere. And in the clouds below, I don't know if any of you know I know a lot of you know what a sundog is. And anyway, that was the first time that I'd seen a sundog from above looking down on the clouds, and the sundog is in the clouds below. That was a most amazing thing to witness also. So all these little magical things occurred. Even during the ceremony, at the very opening ceremony, had this fly buzzing around, and it ends up landing on my nose. And I turned to Kim and I go, "Look at this." And I'm sitting there looking at the fly. I'm going, "You see this?" And this fly is just walking around on the tip of my nose. And I turned around, and Deborah Peoples was behind me, and there were several other friends that were behind me. I think Lori Walsh was there also. I was just looking at the fly saying, "Hey guys, you see this?" And he stayed there for about 30 seconds, then flew off. And anyway, these things were just happening the whole time we were there. In the night of the 12-12-12, we had the Geminoid meteor shower that came through. I had no idea it was going to happen. I could feel the energy shifts and the frequency coming up after the 12-12-12 ceremony. At first I thought I was having another activation, but I realized this was a planetary activation as we had just ascended Mother Earth. And I could feel the vibrations and the frequencies within my field, and the hum, the step up a whole octave, and it was most amazing. And I felt such a need to dance all that night long. And so we were outside at the fire ceremonies, and I was dancing with it. And then all of a sudden, I had to leave the fire ceremony and to go off by myself into the desert and do some work and energy transitioning within my own physical body. And the only way that I could describe what I experienced as I was dancing in the desert was like Forrest Gump, and when his girlfriend saying, "Run, Forrest, run!" and he had on his leg braces and all these things that held him bound up, and he starts taking off running, and it's all popping and breaking off of him. All this brittleness that kept him in check, that had been his eggshell, his cocoon, he broke away from, and all of a sudden was able to run free. And as I was dancing, I could feel the brittleness in my body as my frequencies were stepping up to that higher octave, and I could literally feel it within my field as well as hearing it. That was my experience as I was dancing alone under these meteor showers, and I'm looking up at the most beautiful fingernail moon at sunset. I just noticed it's up there, and it's just a sliver as I'm watching it, and the sun is going down right now. I was dancing under the stars, and I felt like my whole body, all the old brittle physical being, just like when you're popping your back or something, it was all just shedding. And I woke up to a whole new energy, and it took that to allow the energy to flow through this body. And so the next day, I wake up on 12/13 with very, very little sleep. I probably slept till 9 o'clock that next morning, and I had a little wine that night too, trying to loosen myself up. And it was so perfect. The next day, I wake up, and I feel all these new energies around me from all the other activated individuals. And of course, when our fields blend in and merge together, we pick up on those other individuals. And the easiest way to describe what I was witnessing was, it was like a radio receiver, and you had one dial on it going as it's changing between channels. And that was my own frequency. But the receiver that I was tuning into had millions, if not 7 billion dials on it. And all the dials are going and readjusting. And that was my perceptions of the energies. And it was so magnified by all the other individuals who were already activated or going through their activation process, that were part of the 600 to 700 people at Star Knowledge during the ceremonies. And I was picking up on everybody, and it was so amazing what I was experiencing. Well, anyway, we're coming up on the end of this vid, and I've got so much more to say. But as we got back to the airport, even TSA, the transportation police, were just joking around, and they were just having the blast. And I could feel the vibration shift in the whole population. It was just so absolutely magical, all the way from there to here. And anyway, I'll stop with this at this time and post this vid. Love you all. Bye for now, guys.